All right, let's dive right into this explainer. You know that pristine image of Silicon Valley? The Californian sunshine, the brilliant engineers tapping away in sleek, open-plan offices? Well, today we're looking past all that. What if that whole picture is just a carefully crafted myth? We're going to look at the hidden reality of what actually builds artificial intelligence.
Because think about the grandiose promises we hear from tech leaders right now. If you listen to the industry giants, AI is going to cure diseases, it's going to solve climate change, and basically be this limitless resource that works for free. They paint a picture of this total technological paradise where machines do literally all the heavy lifting, allowing humanity to just flourish in unprecedented ways.
But here's the crucial question we need to unpack today. Are these brilliant systems truly artificial and autonomous? Or are they actually built on blood and sweat? Sociologists and researchers are starting to point out that there's a very intentional narrative here, one designed by the tech industry to totally conceal the raw human effort that actually makes these algorithms tick.
Which brings us to part one, the invisible data workforce. The sheer scale here is honestly staggering. A recent World Bank report estimates there are anywhere from 150 to 430 million unseen data workers globally. Think about that number for a second. Hundreds of millions of people powering these systems right now. The whole idea that AI just operates on its own, it's a fallacy. It requires a constant, relentless feeding of labeled data by actual human beings just to keep up with our changing world. And where is this demand for cheap labor going? Will companies intentionally outsource this tedious work, explicitly targeting populations and economies that are in crisis? We're talking about places where labor rights might be weak: Kenya, India, Syria, Argentina. The sources even point to female prisoners in Finland earning just a few euros a day, or Ukrainian refugees in Bulgaria, like a woman named Anna, who has to work 2 jobs just to make sure she and her daughter can survive. The wages are kept incredibly low, basically ensuring these workers can never really escape the cycle.
Let's actually break down what this work looks like. Take an individual like Arnab in India. He spends hours doing incredibly mundane, repetitive tasks. Picture spending your entire day looking at a photo of a penguin, manually drawing little boxes around the ocean water behind it, and hitting submit, over and over again. Why? Because the driverless car or a search algorithm eventually needs to figure out how to recognize its surroundings. This hyper-repetitive manual labor is the literal fuel training these AI models.
All right, moving on to part two, moderating the dark web. This is where things take a noticeably darker turn. For just 83 cents a task, which comes out to about $9 a day, workers in Kenya are acting as a human filter against the absolute worst corners of the internet. You see, for AI models to learn how to filter out terrible things like murder, violence, and abuse, human beings actually have to manually read, watch, and label that exact content first. And this creates a really stark contrast. On one side, in the global north, you have clean AI outputs, utopian tech promises, and trillion-dollar profits. But on the flip side, in the global south, you have workers like Faustine Makira in Kenya, who spent years reviewing content that was 99.99% toxic, real-life violence and abuse, the darkest stuff imaginable. Faustine and his colleagues developed severe PTSD, anxiety, and depression. They are quite literally absorbing the trauma so that users in the West can have a perfectly clean, safe AI experience. To make matters worse, reports show these workers are often systematically silenced. They're forced to sign incredibly strict non-disclosure agreements. If they speak out, they're threatened with up to 10 years in jail. And if they try to unionize to get better working conditions or, basic mental health support, immediate termination. As one worker put it, they feel like they are being sacrificed to clean the digital garbage of the West, all to generate billion-dollar profits for companies that just refuse to protect them. Before we move to the next point, I really want you to ask yourself a tough question, because when you weigh all this human suffering happening behind the screen, it really forces us to evaluate our daily habits with these systems. Was that casual ChatGPT prompt really that important? Let's pivot to part three, the environmental cost. Because the cost isn't just psychological, it's physical. The industry has effectively invisibilized its infrastructure. We all think of our data floating up in this fluffy, weightless cloud, right? But the reality is massive, sprawling, warehouse-sized data centers. AI's physical diet is staggering. It gobbles up gargantuan amounts of water for cooling and manufacturing, immense electricity, and rare earth metals completely stripped from the earth. Things like cobalt, lithium, cerium, neodymium. There is honestly no such thing as an advanced technology that doesn't extract a heavy toll from the natural world. So, how is all this justified? That brings us to part 4, the TESCREAL ideology. To understand the mindset of tech leaders, we have to look at their core goal, the pursuit of AGI, or artificial general intelligence. Now, we're not talking about a smarter chatbot here. They view AGI as a superintelligence, a system that performs as well as or better than any human in literally every cognitive domain. The belief is that once they build this controllable AGI, they can basically just delegate it the task of creating a utopian future for humanity. And this is driven by a really complex philosophical engine in Silicon Valley, summed up by the acronym TESCREAL. You don't need to memorize all these terms, but they're championed by tech billionaires pushing for a radically different future. It includes things like transhumanism, re-engineering the human body to become immortal post-humans, and cosmism, which is the drive to colonize the accessible universe. It's essentially this sprawling sci-fi vision of a multi-galactic civilization. But here's where the sources raise a massive red flag. Critics point out that the L in that acronym, long-termism, is used to morally justify the suffering we just talked about. Because these proponents are looking thousands or even millions of years into the future, the very real trauma of a data worker in Kenya or the destruction of a local river today gets mathematically minimized. Researchers argue that they literally view present-day exploitation as an insignificant sacrifice, a molecule in a drop in the ocean compared to the supposed unfathomable goodness of the future, basically a few cracked eggs for their futuristic omelet. Ultimately, researchers argue that this is a deeply anti-democratic, elitist vision. You've got a handful of powerful companies and billionaires unilaterally shaping a future that benefits their specific utopian ideals, totally bypassing any public consensus. They're quietly proclaiming themselves the creators of a paradise, but it's a paradise built on terms we never agreed to, and one we might not even be invited to share. Which brings us to our final section, a paradise built on suffering. Let's look back at that quote from the very beginning of this explainer. It's sort of like we've just discovered a new continent with 100 billion people on it, and they're willing to work for free for us. Hearing that again with the full context of the invisible workforce, the severe PTSD of content moderators, and the rampant environmental extraction, it takes on a completely different, chilling tone. For many critics, discovering a new continent of people to work for free sounds a lot less like a technological miracle, and a lot more like a modern continuation of colonial exploitation and apartheid. As researchers point out, they are optimizing their processes and their dividends simply by optimizing and exploiting humans. So I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought to take away. As this technology accelerates totally unchecked, and the immense human and ecological costs keep getting swept under the rug by powerful corporations chasing a sci-fi utopia, after the global south is exhausted, after the mines are dug and the rivers run dry, who do you think will truly be the future victims in the belly of AI? Who's going to be paying the price next?